the 2014 Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, brought to you from Georgia Public Broadcasting. Now, the race for Labor Commissioner.
Good evening. I'm Randall Savage with WMAZ-TV in Macon. We'd like to welcome you and our live studio audience to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting in Atlanta. This is a debate between the candidates for Georgia's Labor Commissioner. Now let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. Mark Butler, who's been the Labor Commissioner since 2001, and Robin Shipp is a former attorney and formerly served in the Georgia House of Representatives. Now let's meet our panelists. Maggie Lee is a freelance reporter specializing in state government and politics. Sarah Pankow is an anchor for WRBL-TV in Columbus, Georgia. And Ernie Suggs is a political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This debate will consist of 3 rounds. For more information on the rules, please visit atlantapressclub.org. Now let's get started. In the first round, the candidates will be asked one question from a specific panelist, and one question will be posed to both candidates. Ernie Suggs, you get the first question for Robin Shipp.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shipp, let's start off, I guess with the obvious question. Georgia has, if not one of the worst unemployment rates in the country. If you're elected, and what has been your platform to address this, and how are you going to address it when you're elected, if you're elected?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Suggs. Specifically, what I would like to see is our tapping into available resources through the United States Department of Labor, as well as the federal government on whole, to bring in job opportunities, not just for the 305,000 individuals that we presently have on the books, but also for those who are categorized as chronically unemployed, and opportunities for what we anticipate to be a drawdown of a lot. I believe Mr. Butler indicated it was approximately 50,000 U.S. military employees who will leave the military and hopefully come back to Georgia. So I would want to tap into those resources.
Ms. Pankow, it's your turn for a question from Mr. Butler.
Thank you very much. Kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Suggs' question, Mr. Butler, Georgia has the highest unemployment rate under your watch. How do you explain that?
Well, first of all, let's make sure that we understand the unemployment rate and the jobs number is 2 different numbers. Unemployment rate signifies people who are currently looking for work that do not have work. When it comes to solving that problem, the best way to do it is get individuals back to work. And over the last 3 years, we've been doing that. Since January 2011, since I came into office, over 300,000 people have gone back to work. And matter of fact, in just this last year, we've made really big improvements because we've seen 80,000 people go back to work in just the last 12 months, which puts us, by the way, 6th in the nation in job growth. There are a lot of other states that actually have lower unemployment rates, which have less than half of our job growth. And I'm talking about states that are the exact same size as Georgia, places like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan. You'll see some of those have in the high 5s and the low 6s, but yet have only 30,000 jobs created over the last 12 months. And I don't want to trade places with them.
Ms. Shipp, would you like to respond to that?
Only from the perspective that we have this large group of individuals who are categorized as chronically unemployed, and Mr. Butler has failed in his responsibility to those citizens, failed to either ask the congressional delegation out of Washington to extend the long-term unemployment benefits, or B, develop any possible programs that address their needs.
Ms. Lee, you have questions for both of them.
Thank you. Georgians who file an unemployment claim today are eligible for 15 weeks of unemployment insurance payments. Most states offer 26. Is Georgia in the right place? Why or why not?
Who's that question to?
Who's here?
Go, Ms. Butler.
A lot of states actually have followed Georgia's lead in putting their unemployment on a sliding scale depending on your unemployment rate. Right now, the average time somebody spends on state unemployment is actually under 11 weeks. There's already been studies that looked at extended unemployment benefits, and they have actually negatively impacted a lot of people's progress toward going back to work. If you take a look at the last 6 months of extended benefits, only 500,000 people returned to work. When you look at the 6 months after extended benefits were stopped, over 1.6 million people went back to work. We choose to concentrate on employment programs like our SWAT team, which goes into hard-hit communities to find out what the barriers are for individuals going back to work and get them back to work as quickly as possible. And we've been able to do that.
Ms. Shipp?
Thank you.
You have an opportunity to answer that same question.
Thank you. A lot of Georgians would be offended by the Labor Commissioner's characterization of them as, in some sort of way, holdouts for the privilege of receiving, on average, $268 a week. The reality that Mr. Butler talks about his SWAT program, that's a reiteration of something that previously existed under General David Poitras. When we are looking at the most restrictive unemployment benefits, the program that was implemented by the legislature at Mr. Butler's urging in 2011, we're looking at a reality where folks generally take upwards of, could be as much as 40 weeks to attain new employment. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at people who are being pushed off of the unemployment rolls and off of receipt of unemployment benefits into public assistance.
That concludes the first round of questions. Now each panelist will have the opportunity to ask a question of the other person. Mr. Butler, you may begin.
Mrs. Shipp, on the campaign trail, you have been quoted many times, matter of fact, in some things that you wrote that have been online, that you have stated that the minimum wage in Georgia is $5.15. Now, you are a labor attorney. I think you know Georgia law, and I think you know federal law, and you know that that is not true. Why are you trying to fool the Georgians and thinking that our rate is $5.15, or is it just that you do not know what the unemployment rate, or excuse me, what the minimum wage is here in Georgia?
Well, interesting question, Mr. Butler. Actually, I would suggest that you go to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics to see for yourself that Georgia's minimum wage is in fact $5.15 an hour. Now, there's a sliding scale as it relates to which employers can actually employ people at $5.15 an hour. But had you had the experience that I've had traveling all over the state, I've met people who make $5.15 an hour, Mr. Butler.
I'll get you a rebuttal.
30-second rebuttal.
The same exceptions that apply in Georgia apply in all states, things like waitresses and other things. State law and federal law both say, and it's very clear, it's black and white, it says that the minimum wage shall be the state rate or the federal rate, whichever one is higher. That is plain law. I mean, you're the only one that thinks that the minimum wage is $5.15, so you might want to go back and check your law book. Ms.
Shipp, you may ask him a question.
Thank you. On February the 1st, Mr. Butler, 2014, you stated that you do not support raising the minimum wage. You said that, in fact, that one cannot live off of a minimum wage, or that a minimum wage is not intended for individuals to live off of. Can you explain your rationale for not supporting raising the minimum wage?
Well, quite frankly, unlike you, I've heard you state that you like to raise it to $15 an hour, which is pretty outrageous. But first of all, a minimum wage is not meant to live on. You're right. That's why at the Department of Labor, we encourage individuals through working with our technical colleges and other training facilities to go back and get more skills. Right now, people that have skills are in high demand right now in the state of Georgia. We're hearing from businesses all over the state. Matter of fact, when it comes to wages, we are also starting to hear a lot of businesses, especially in more rural areas of Georgia, they're starting to see that they're having to compete more and more and raise their wages with other businesses.
You may.
So I take that as a no. You don't support raising the minimum wage.
I support helping people with education.
But you didn't answer the question. At any rate, your response in regards to your having heard me say that I support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour is actually incorrect. When I spoke of raising the minimum wage, which I do support, I did so in the context of what other states have done, and at no time supported raising Georgia's minimum wage to $15 an hour. I think it's just an indication of how out of touch Mr. Butler is with Georgia's reality.
If you're just joining us, this is a debate between the candidates for Georgia's Labor Commissioner. We will now go to the third round and final round. Our panelists will question the candidates until we run out of time. Ms. Pankow, you have the first question.
Thank you. Actually, I kind of wanted to go off something that I heard earlier, Ms. Shipp, that you talked about the military. I'm from Columbus, Fort Benning, one of the biggest installations in the state is there. Wanted to ask you a little bit about, we just heard that Fort Benning is potentially taking away thousands of jobs. Is there anything that you are specifically looking at when it comes to the military saving jobs? I mean, Fort Benning losing those jobs is going to be, tremendous for our area.
Thank you for the question. Actually, the Obama administration just recently announced a couple of weeks ago an initiative to employ over 50,000 former military service individuals in renewable energy jobs. We heard no announcement here in the state of Georgia to specifically say, we love this idea, we embrace this idea, we need to be a part of this initiative so we can get our former soldiers to come back to the states where their families are. And, the families certainly want their kids to come home. But giving them an opportunity to have a job in place, it's projected that this is going to last in excess of 5 years, and it's a part of a much broader initiative. It's presently stalled out in Congress. Hopefully it'll get authorized, where the Obama administration wants to put money in making federal buildings green energy compliant, which is all aimed at our veterans.
Mr. Suggs, your question.
Yes. Mr. Butler, you eloquently told us about the difference between the jobs, creating jobs, and unemployment, how those are different. But the fact of the matter is that Georgia has the worst unemployment rate in the country. And I think that when you look at states and when you look at statistics and we look at numbers, having the worst of anything in the country is bad. So you've been in this office since 2011, so you were talking about how, you rather have this rather that, but that's a pretty bad number. So how do you address that, and how do you assure the voters and assure Georgians that number is going to change over the next 4 years if you're elected?
Well, probably the biggest thing you have to look at is there's so many things that go into it. First of all, you take a look at Georgia. We have one of the fastest growing populations also. In the last 3 years, we've gained over 300,000 residents, and that goes a long way toward that issue. When you talk about solving the unemployment rate, you want to create jobs, which is what we're seeing happen. There's announcements practically here almost every single week. But when you talk about how the federal government figures our state unemployment rate, even because a lot of economists have questioned that number here in Georgia and throughout the Southeast, they've actually just announced this last week in the Wall Street Journal, and I will quote, DOL has announced plans to update its model for estimating state-level unemployment next year with an eye to improving the reliability of the statistics. Now, that tells me that they even realize that they're having some issues with how reliable these numbers are.
But are you also telling me, if I can ask a follow-up, that you are satisfied with those numbers?
Well, no. Obviously, you want to keep putting people back to work. I mean, right now we're one of the leaders in the nation when it comes to creating jobs. Matter of fact, for the last 2 years, we have been in the top 10, not only in net job growth, but also in percentage of job growth. You take some of these other states that are similar in size to us, they're showing less than 0.5% job growth. whereas we're showing a 2% job growth, which is better than the national average. So we're doing our part to get Georgians back to work. However, we have more work to do just because of the fact we're seeing so many people come to Georgia.
Ms. Lee, you have the next question.
Sure. A question for Ms. Shipp. Unemployment is unevenly spread throughout the state. There's some rural communities and some urban communities where unemployment is much higher than the average. How do you tackle unemployment in these especially hard-hit areas? What kind of programs would help there?
Good question. There are a number of programs that we can implement all over the state. I'm a huge proponent of developing our renewable energy opportunities in the state of Georgia. That could be centralized in other parts of the state. We're having a surge as it relates to the port down in Brunswick. We're going to have some development that's going to occur as a result of that port and its capacity expanding. So working from the existing bases, bringing in all sorts of innovative programs such as renewable energies, creating more opportunities for agritourism in our farming areas, those types of initiatives.
Ms. Pankow, your next question.
Thank you. I'd actually like to ask Mr. Butler, what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been during your tenure as commissioner?
Probably one of the biggest accomplishments that we've had, besides seeing 300,000 people go back to work, was that we inherited a very large debt to the federal government that was acquired through some bad policies made from the Barnes administration. We owe the federal government almost $1 billion that we had to get paid back. And because we owed that money, we saw state unemployment taxes go up on businesses over 50%. Federal unemployment taxes increased by over 150%. We were told it would take 6 to 8 years to pay that loan back. We actually paid it back this year, which will save businesses across Georgia $220 million in taxes. That's money they can use to hire and invest.
If I could, are we permitted to respond?
30 seconds.
Okay. What Mr. Butler doesn't explain is the fact that our business taxes are some of the lowest as it relates to the payroll tax, some of the lowest in the country. 30 to 40% of our businesses only pay $3 per employee. Recently, it was increased in 2012 in the legislation to $9,500. Additionally, if that is the idea of his greatest accomplishment, then forcing citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Suggs, your question.
Yes, for Mr. Butler, and perhaps Ms. Shipp can rebut or answer this as well. But you mentioned that Ms. Shipp said that the $5.15 minimum wage figure that she's quoting is not right. But I don't think I heard what the exact figure is. Can you tell us what that figure is and why, if it's not $5.15, Ms. Shipp, why are you not getting that figure right? So what is the figure and why are you disputing the figure? Well, Mr. Butler, what is the actual?
The federal minimum wage, which businesses here in Georgia have to abide by, is $7.25 per hour.
Okay.
And that's, matter of fact, several states around us don't even have minimum wage laws on their books because we are subject to the federal law. I mean, any lawyer would know that.
Okay. So, Ms. Shipp, why are you saying it's $5.15?
Because Georgia's minimum wage is $5.15 per hour. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. It's still on the books here in the state of Georgia. And there are citizens all across this state who earn that as a minimum wage. Additionally, the minimum wage for tip employees is $2.15 an hour. So Mr. Butler is correct. I am a lawyer. I do handle labor and employment cases, and I would recommend that you look at the statute.
Ms. Lee?
Sure. To return to minimum wage for a moment, I'd like to ask Commissioner Butler, if you're against raising the minimum wage, why is there no scope for raising the minimum wage? The economy's improving, is it not? Why not raise the minimum wage some?
Well, when the economy improves, you will see the wages that are being paid to employees go up, and we're seeing it already right now. Matter of fact, I've just in the last 2 weeks spoken to 2 major employers in the state that are having to get more competitive on their wages. Of course, now they weren't paying minimum wage in the first place. Raising the minimum wage, there's no doubt will help people, but only for a temporary amount of time. Because once you raise those wages, then other wages are going to have to go up also, because you can't pay somebody with a high school degree the same as you're paying somebody with a college degree. If you get in that kind of situation, it all is going to adjust. The only way you're going to have a permanent solution to people making minimum wage is we have to do things like we're doing right now with using Quick Start, partnering with our technical colleges and universities and other schools to help people get those trade skills that they need to have better paying jobs. That is the only permanent solution to helping people get out of minimum wage.
Ms. Panko?
Yes, thank you. This question can be for both candidates. You know, Georgia, well, recently I've done a lot of stories about job fairs. There's been a lot in our area, and you know, some schools have been doing some, but do you think job fairs are effective, and how effective are they? And you know, has there been any research that actually places, you know, the number of jobs found through the fairs?
Who did you?
Oh, Ms. Shipp, you can start.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I believe the job fairs are effective. I believe that it helps citizens across the spectrum in obtaining employment. And I would continue to implement any opportunity for a job fair that was available.
Sure.
We know they're effective. We've had over 3,000 events in the last 3.5 years. But how we've made them even more effective, and my opponent was incorrect saying that we copied a previous commissioner's program. She's talking about the I think it's SAC program, which dealt with welfare recipients. Our SWAT program helps with our job expos. We have events before the job expos where we bring in people who are having a hard time going back to work. We help them redo their resumes. We show them how to work a job expo. We show them additional training, how to interview, how to market themselves after 40. I mean, and our employers have told us again and again that when we have these pre-events before there, that they have much better results, and they're really liking our job expos now.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Suggs?
Yes, Ms. Shipp, running as a challenger, when you're out campaigning across the state, what's the biggest concern that voters have?
Voters are concerned about the minimum wage. They're concerned about whether or not their children who are graduating both high school and college are going to be able to be here in their home state with a job. Voters are also concerned with pay equity with regard to women. Voters are concerned about the services that they receive at the Labor Department and their concerns that the Labor Department is not serving their needs.
Time, Ms. Shipp. Mr. Butler? Same question.
Same question.
Oh, okay. You know, we hear a variety of things. First of all, it's availability of training. But one of the things that we're seeing, we're hearing a lot more hope around the state of Georgia. We're seeing jobs, you know, there's no doubt that the jobs started in Atlanta, and we're seeing those spread out. You know, I've had meetings, dozens of meetings over the past 2 or 3 months of new companies that are coming to places outside of Metro Atlanta. So we're seeing good improvement. So what I'm seeing right now, when I get out there and I talk to the businesses and I talk to the individuals that are looking for jobs, they're seeing a lot more hope, and that's why you're seeing a lot more individuals coming back into the workforce.
That's all the time we'll have for questions. Candidates will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement, and by random selection, Mr. Shipp makes the first closing statement.
Thank you. I want to thank the Atlanta Press Club. I want to thank the panelists and the moderator. This is an important election. At this election, you're going to decide the policy directions for the state of Georgia for the conceivable next 5, 10, possibly as much as 20 years. It has been an honor for me to travel all over the state to have a conversation with Georgians about their concerns and the direction that they want to see their state go into. I am running to implement policies of raising the minimum wage, implement policies of pay equity for women, similarly to restore to the citizens of the state of Georgia its labor department, one that works for them, not against them. So I'm excited to be here, and I look forward to talking with you some more in the coming weeks of the campaign trail.
Mr. Butler.
First, I want to thank the people of Georgia for allowing me to be your labor commissioner. It's been the most rewarding career of my life for just the last 3 years and 8 months. And I want to continue to do that, so I ask you for your vote again. We've brought a lot of innovation to the Department of Labor. We've brought our new SWAT teams, our Special Workforce Assistance teams, which help people overcome barriers and go back to work. Our Georgia Best program, which states all over this great nation have been asking to copy, that teaches our young people the needed soft skills so that way they can be successful. Things like the importance of timeliness, teamwork, things that quite frankly our employers are just dying to have. We're going to continue to bring these types and even more innovations to Georgia through our ways of making our department better and making ourselves more efficient and improving our customer service like we've been doing for the last 4 years. So I ask you for your vote again and let me to continue this good work in giving you the best labor department in America.
That concludes our debate. We'd like to remind all voters that the general election will be held Tuesday, November the 4th, and early voting starts tomorrow. Our thanks to the candidates and to our panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging this debate. For more information about the Atlanta Press Club and all of the debates they are hosting this election season, visit pressclub.org. This debate will be archived. The debate will also be available on demand at gpb.org. The Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series is made possible by a donation from Charles R. Loudermilk. Please stay with us for the debate among candidates for Georgia's school superintendent. I'm Randall Savage. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.